Minimum wage and unemployment. A latest news from CBC News reports that Newfoundland and Labrador's minimum wage is set to go up April 1st. Critics say it still won't be enough to make ends meet. Increasing minimum wage sounds like a great benefit of having bigger money in the pockets of minimum wage earners. But this news ironically tells us that increasing minimum wage is still not enough to sustain the needs of the citizens. This idea is associated with the controversies of increased minimum wage because of its impact to the economy. First, the benefits of increased minimum wage. According to the paper of David Green in 2015, the BC Federation of Labor is leading a new campaign calling for the minimum wage in British Columbia to be raised from $10.25 to $15 per hour, with the goal of reducing the numbers of working poor and increasing the fairness of the wage structure. The benefit of increasing the wage is for the workers to provide their adequate needs and decrease the rate of minimum wage earners that are considered in poverty. In relation to the statement of Sheila Block of Wellesley Institute in 2024, if somebody is working full-time, full year, they shouldn't be below the poverty line. They shouldn't be looking at food banks to feed themselves and their families at the end of the month, which is a reasonable thought that should be considered. Even though increased minimum wage has a logical benefit, it also has its downside. From the same research paper of David Green, he says, however, some business lobby groups and associated think tanks oppose this idea, arguing that economics research points to increases in the minimum wage having large negative effects on employment levels and little impact on poverty. Based on this study, there are controversies in terms of those people who aims to increase the minimum wage and to those people who do not agree to this implementation. But how does increasing the salary could negatively impact the employment levels of the workers? This is answered with the relationship of supply and demand in the economy, supported by Britain economic correspondent Duncan Weldon. If you make something more expensive, people will usually want to buy less of it. And if you make labor more expensive, then employers might want less of it. High marginal cost. According to Chung from Bank of Canada, in the model, an increase in aggregate wages raises firms' marginal cost, which triggers an increase in prices in the economy. To put this in simpler picture, a store of Mrs. Cruz below will be an example. Mrs. Cruz owns a store that sells produce goods for around $10. If a store like Mrs. Cruz has to do a mandatory increase of wage per worker, she would have to pay them more using the profit that the store generates. Since there will be less profit left for the store, it might encourage her to close it if she won't make any adjustments. And because higher salaries needed to be provided to the workers, its production costs will be affected as well. So Mrs. Cruz, the employer, would have to increase the prices of goods she sells in order to regain the profit loss from paying her employees. Although it is a benefit for employees to receive an increase in their salary, this effect can be felt by the customers as increasing wage creates a larger holes in their pockets because products are now at higher cost. This means that increasing minimum wage will also result to the growing inflation in the economy. Inflation. Inflation is the rising of prices of goods and services in the market. Exactly how the economy works The increase in prices of products would give the consumers the reasons to not buy it anymore, which again could affect the profit of an industry or a store like Mrs. Cruz. On the worst side, employers could reduce the employees they hired, for their services and product prices be sufficient to pay the workers and give a reasonable profit to the store or to an industry. Or, an option can be considered by employers like Mrs. Cruz. In order to lessen her payment for her workers, she could consider automation. Automation is the use of machine and computers without the help of human labor for service and production. As the minimum wage increases, firms may decide to substitute labor for capital by investing more heavily in automation, and this may affect what types of firms enter and exit the market. Using machines can also increase the production rate. Although it may or may not be efficient, the labor cost will certainly decrease, which is a benefit for the employer. Therefore, relying on automation can be one of the factors of rising unemployment rate. We can see that increasing minimum wage has a lot of factors to be considered, and sometimes these factors are varied depending on the type of economy of a certain area, because changes on the minimum wage can have both positive and negative impact on the working individuals. To further study this interaction of increased minimum wage and unemployment rate, this study will focus on the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Like any other provinces in Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador provides a different major source of income to its citizens, given by its location and weather. The Newfoundland and Labrador's economy is mostly consists of major industries of oil and gas refinery, mining, forestry, and fishing. And according to the government of the province, the extraction and processing of crude oil, minerals, fish and forest resources accounted for approximately 33% of gross domestic product in year 2022. These industries are mostly dependent on the season. Therefore, the labor force is observed to drastically reduce on the months of winter. Newfoundland and Labrador statistics. On the left is an organized table of minimum wage rate from year 2014 to 2024, while on the right is the graph that shows the trend of unemployment from September 2022 to April 2024. In here is the combined and simplified data of minimum wage increase and unemployment rate in the province. Based on the legend on the graph, the blue line corresponds to the minimum wage per Canadian dollar, and the orange line is the percentage of unemployment. On the month of December year 2022, the wage is at $13.70, having an unemployment rate of 9.8%. On the following month, the minimum wage remained the same. However, the unemployment rate jumps to 11.4%. And on August, the increased minimum wage is applied. Although there was an increase of 80 cents per hour, the unemployment rate drops from 11.4% to 8.8%. From the data obtained, the increase in unemployment rate does not correspond to the increase of minimum wage. Rather, the unemployment rate is observed to rise during the winter season, having their highest rate on January and December of year 2023 and 2024. Therefore, increase in minimum wage is not the major factor of rising unemployment rate in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Factors of rising unemployment rate in Newfoundland and Labrador. First, seasonal employment. Based again from the provincial government website, approximately 33% of the gross domestic product is contributed by the extraction and processing of crude oil, minerals, fish and forest resources. Since industries of agriculture, fishery, and forestry depend in its production trend on season, this makes the Newfoundland and Labrador's economy one of the most dependent on seasonal industries in Canada. Therefore, season is a crucial factor in productivity of major industries in the province, affecting employees by giving them less profit or unemployment on off seasons. Second, qualifications for jobs available. As Newfoundland and Labrador has mostly skill-related work industry, it encourages people not to pursue higher education because jobs are readily available without the need of advanced education. However, winter season creates a major problem with seasonal dependent jobs, leaving workers with job vacancies which require higher level of education. This is supported by Lynn Gamblin of Memorial University in 2018. She claims that university degree holders have the lowest unemployment rate. People with skilled trades have a relatively high unemployment rate at the moment. As white-collar jobs are constantly operating throughout the year, individuals who attain higher level of education or degree holders have more stable jobs. However, this is not always the case in Newfoundland and Labrador. High level of education also has effects on unemployment rate in Newfoundland and Labrador. Large outmigration rate. CBC News reports that unemployment rate among teenagers is very high, 28.1% for ages 15 to 19. Yet, it is also expected that they are attending post-secondary education. On the other hand, an interview done with Lynn Gamblin also provides an insight that young, highly qualified workers leaving to find opportunities elsewhere is the driving factor behind such a high unemployment level. Having an interest in contrary to the major industries in Newfoundland and Labrador encourages people to emigrate, this becoming one of the factors of employment and demographic trend. This is supported by the data from the government as of January 1, 2024, having an estimate of 1,121 interprovincial outmigration count. Aside from this, there are also different factors experienced by workers at all ages aside from those previous ones that relate to educational level. Inability to afford childcare facilities. One of the most common financial commitments of an individual is childcare for their children. Lack of financial support for this necessity could leave parents to remain in their houses and be the one that takes care of them full-time. Although being a home-based parent is essential as well, this could lead them to have less income for their household and contribute to the unemployment rate of the province. Lastly, cost of training. Considering the related cost of training such as transportation to long-distance industry is also seen as a factor for individuals' employability. This study finds out that factors such as seasonal employment, average level of education, outmigration, and common financial challenges attribute to the unemployment rate of the province. To conclude, the implementation of increased minimum wage is not the main reason of the change in Newfoundland and Labrador's unemployment rate.